It was the kind of Georgia afternoon that blurs into memory, a sun too bright for grief, air sweet with magnolia, and the drone of a preacher whose voice cracked on my son's name. The funeral home sat on a red clay hill outside Savannah, shaded by oaks that dropped Spanish moss like slow tears. Inside, the scent of lilies fought the sharper edge of antiseptic polish. I sat in the first pew, hands folded, counting the seconds between the hymns. Mothers aren't built to bury their children. We simply learn to breathe around the hole left behind. Michael had been 34, a firefighter, steady as brick. His wife Jenna stood one row ahead, black veil trembling. When the final psalm ended, people began filing past with damp eyes and murmured blessings. Some pressed my shoulder, some kissed my cheek, all saying the same thing. He's in a better place. I wanted to scream that I didn't give permission for him to leave this one. Then Jenna turned. Her perfume, a cold citrus I'd never liked, cut through the cloying flowers. She leaned close, her lips brushing my ear like a secret. "It's all yours now," she whispered. The words slid soft as silk, but carried a weight I couldn't place. Before I could ask, she slipped away into the hallway's hush, guiding little Emma by the hand. All mine? I told myself she meant the grief, the absence, maybe the houseplants Michael had insisted I water, but something in her voice, the relish, not relief, made the hairs on my neck prick. Grief amplifies every echo. Still, I let it go. There were casseroles to reheat, sympathy cards to pretend to read, arrangements to unmake, the trivial duties of the newly shattered. That night, the house felt hollow. Michael's old things, his childhood baseball glove, the bent silver cross from his wedding, had waited on his dresser for years, surviving every move as if clairvoyant for this day. I tried to sleep, but saw only Jenna's lean face and the flick of her eyes past the coffin, as though counting something invisible. Just before dawn, I rose, brewed coffee strong enough to shake the ghosts, and stared through my kitchen window at the gravel drive where cars had filled the day before. The rain had washed it clean. Only tire ruts remained, like parentheses around an unfinished sentence. At noon, Jenna called. Her voice was tightly polite, like someone speaking through gritted teeth for company. "Margaret," she said, "I wanted you to know we'll be reading Michael's letter tomorrow. He left one for you." He wrote a letter? Words tangled in disbelief. Michael wasn't a letter writer. He was a call-you-from-the-truck, fix-your-faucet kind of son. "Yes," she replied. "He asked his attorney to handle it. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., at Carson and Lee downtown." A pause. "Bring identification." Then the line clicked dead. Bring identification? What kind of letter required paperwork? The next morning, downtown Savannah rolled open in slow motion, storefronts yawning after rain, church bells marking the hour. Carson and Lee's office occupied a white-pillared building smelling faintly of lemon oil and old verdicts. The receptionist guided me to a walnut-paneled room where Jenna already sat, ankle crossed over ankle, face powdered pale. Beside her was a young man in a navy suit, attorney, sharp, too freshly pressed for human tragedy. "Mrs. Hill," he greeted, "I'm Robert Carson. Your son appointed me executor 3 months ago." 3 months. About the time Michael stopped by with that distracted look, said work had been stressful, but he couldn't talk details. Carson opened a thick folder. "This is Michael Hill's last will and testament. Normally we'd schedule separate readings, but both beneficiaries are present." He adjusted his glasses. "Mrs. Hill, he left a personal letter addressed to you, which I'll give at the end. The rest concerns property transfer." Jenna's manicured fingers drummed against her bag. I noticed her wedding ring gone, the band that once carried his fire station badge engraving. In its place sat a slim diamond, new and glinting. Carson continued, Per Mr. Hill's directive, his life insurance, pension benefits, and savings account, totaling $172,000, are to be placed into a trust fund for his daughter, Emma Hill, managed jointly by Mrs. Jenna Hill and Mrs. Margaret Hill until Emma reaches 18. I exhaled. Sensible, a father providing for his child. Jenna's mouth twitched. "That can't be right," she said softly. "Michael told me." Carson raised a palm. "There's more." Mr. Hill's primary residence at 48 Willow Bend is deeded entirely to Mrs. Margaret Hill, his mother. The words hung between us like thunder without lightning. My head spun. His house? Mine? I didn't want a house. I wanted my son. Jenna bolted upright. "He promised me that house," he said. Carson's tone stayed professional. "The deed is signed and witnessed. His note specifies, and I quote, 'So my mother never again pays rent to anyone.'" The silence afterward was a living thing. Jenna's face hardened, rosy anger flushing through her veil of composure. When she finally spoke, her voice was a whisper sharpened to a blade. "Then I was right. It's all yours now." She gathered her purse, heels striking the marble floor like gavel blows, and vanished through the corridor. Carson slid a sealed envelope toward me. "He asked you read this alone." Back at my kitchen table, I broke the seal. The page trembled in my hands. "Ma, if you're reading this, I guess you know. The house is yours. Don't feel guilty. Jenna has her own plans, and I've seen enough to know you'll need protection. Check the basement safe. The combination's your birthday. Keep whatever's inside hidden until you're sure of her intentions. I love you. Take care of Emma like you took care of me." The letters blurred with tears. Downstairs, the basement smelled of damp stone and memory. I brushed aside paint cans to reveal a small gray safe I'd never noticed. The dial clicked under my fingers. Inside were two items, a flash drive and a plain black notebook labeled A B Construction. Michael's job had been firefighting, but he'd moonlighted occasionally renovating homes with his friend Adam Brooks. I flipped the notebook open. Names, addresses, amounts, none familiar except one scrawled darker than the rest. Project Haven, for Jenna. The flash drive waited, silent as guilt. On impulse, I plugged it into an old laptop. Folders popped up, photographs of invoices, blueprints, and video clips. The first showed Michael standing before a half-built warehouse, speaking into his phone. "Something doesn't add up," he was saying. "The permit lists a shelter project, but Jenna keeps transferring the funds overseas. I'm not signing another check till I know where the money's going." The clip ended abruptly. A chill worked its way up my spine. My daughter-in-law, grieving widow, immaculate mourner, was moving charity money offshore? The house, the whisper, the fury at that will reading. Suddenly, it all aligned like puzzle pieces flipped right side up. Outside, thunder crawled across the savannah sky. I stared at the flash drive, the words Project Haven flickering on the file list, and whispered into the quiet room, "Michael, what did you uncover before you died?" Lightning cracked white across the window pane, forking through the live oak branches that framed my backyard. The flash drive's contents glowed in the darkened living room, lines of file names reflecting in the glass like tiny stars. Each folder had dates, spanning nearly a year before Michael's death. He'd written careful notes, shipment records, payment transfers, one labeled J.H. account. My pulse thudded. J.H., Jenna Hill. I printed 3 sheets before the printer jammed. The machine's grinding echoed the noise forming in my head. Had my son been investigating his own wife? Or worse, protecting her? I thought back to those last few months, how he'd seemed distracted, brushing dust from his uniform when he visited, saying everything was fine, but glancing over his shoulder toward the street like something out there waited to claim him. Rain hammered the roof. I called the only person who might know about AB construction. Adam Brooks, a gravelly voice answered. Adam, it's Margaret Hill. A pause, then wary softness. Ma'am, I was hoping you'd call. Been meaning to reach out about Mike. You worked together, didn't you? On something called Project Haven? Static filled the line before he sighed. Yeah, we thought it was a vet housing rebuild, charity operation funded by a private donor. Mike handled permits, but about 6 months in, things got weird. Money came in from a shell company. Deadlines didn't match deliveries. He told me Jenna was managing the finances through her charity, Haven Outreach. Charity? Supposedly. Adam's voice dropped. I started asking questions, then tools started going missing, emails vanished. Mike warned me to back off, said he'd figured it out, that he'd fix it before anyone else got hurt. The connection clicked twice, as if another receiver joined, then went dead. I tried calling back twice. Nothing. I sank into the couch, heartbeat thudding like the rain. My son hadn't just written a will, he'd left breadcrumbs. The next morning, Savannah smelled of damp asphalt and pine. I drove to the address scribbled in the notebook, something near the riverfront, Haven Outreach, Incorporated. The building was 2 stories, white brick with blue lettering, wedged between an insurance office and a shuttered diner. Through the window, desks sat bare except for a half-plugged coffee maker and a stack of moving boxes. "Can I help you?" A voice startled me. A young clerk stepped out of nowhere, cardboard under one arm. "I'm looking for records from Haven Outreach," I said. "Michael Hill used to manage a project there." She grimaced. "We closed operations last month. Director relocated, Jenna Blake." "Blake?" The name hit like a slap. "She remarried," the clerk said casually. "I think Tennessee, maybe?" We had to shred all non-active files. My vision narrowed to a pinpoint. Jenna married again barely a month after the funeral, or maybe before. I thanked the clerk, forced my steps steady until I reached the car, then broke into a run halfway to the door as thunder groaned again across the sky. At home, the house felt smaller, suffocating. Emma's laughter videos still lived on my phone, her gap-toothed smile when Michael spun her around in the backyard. "Hold tight, Pumpkin," he'd said. "Never let go till you're safe." That afternoon, I made a plan. Step 1, lock the safe again, evidence intact. Step 2, meet someone who could interpret what I'd found. The name that came to mind surprised me. Helen Norris, the same social worker who'd handled child services years ago when a neighbor neglected his kids. She now worked with city investigations. Her office smelled of peppermint and bureaucracy. "Mrs. Hill," she said after hearing everything, "if those documents tie funds from a charitable organization to private accounts under your daughter-in-law's name, that's embezzlement. And if your son confronted her about it, we might be looking at more than accounting issues." I flinched. "You think she—" Helen's gaze was steady, professional but kind. "Let's not assume." "Can you leave the flash drive with me? We run forensic copies. I'm not letting it vanish into some evidence locker," I said. "It's all I have left." She considered, then nodded slowly. "Then make duplicates. Keep one off-site." I smiled thinly. Already did. I hadn't, but I would the moment I got home. Evening crept in blood-orange bands along the horizon. I warmed leftover soup, spoon clinking absent-minded. A knock rattled the door. When I opened it, Jenna stood on the porch, coat drenched, smile thin as wire. "We need to talk," she said. My stomach dropped. She stepped inside without waiting. "You've been busy," she murmured, eyes sweeping the room. Then she looked at the table where the flash drive box sat, half covered by mail. Still sorting Michael's things? Trying to, I said. What brings you here, Jenna? I think you know. Her tone chilled. Word travels fast in small towns. Someone's been visiting old project sites, asking about Haven. Then you also know your name's on documents you might prefer buried. She blinked, damp lashes clumping. You can't prove anything. Even if you tried, no one would listen to a grieving old woman clinging to conspiracy theories. Maybe not, I said quietly, but they'll listen to a flash drive full of numbers and a name change that came too soon. For the first time, her expression cracked. You shouldn't dig up the past, Margaret. Neither should murderers, I said before I could stop myself. A silence hung thick as humidity. Then she laughed, not humor, but warning. Careful what you accuse me of, or you'll end up sounding just like him before he had his accident. My throat closed. You mean fire, I whispered, at Station 4. They said it was an explosion from faulty wiring. Did they? Her eyes gleamed. You think the department investigates one of their own too deeply? She leaned close, breath smelling faintly of wine. Michael was stubborn. He knew things best left alone. Get out. My voice shook but stood firm. She smirked, turned toward the door. Enjoy your house, Margaret. Hope you insured it properly. When the door shut behind her, the air cracked open with thunder again. Somewhere outside, a car engine revved, tires hissing through puddles. I locked every door, every window. Upstairs, Emma's old toys lay untouched in her room, teddy bear on the shelf, pink lamp dimly glowing. This house held more ghosts than people now. At midnight I sat holding Michael's letter once more. His handwriting seemed to breathe between the lines. Keep whatever's inside hidden until you're sure of her intentions. I was sure now. I packed a small bag, tucked the drive and notebook inside, and left through the back door into sheets of nocturnal rain. The street lamps flickered. As I reached the car, movement caught my eye. A dark sedan idling 2 houses down, headlights off. In its silhouette, I glimpsed a figure smoking, embers flaring. Adrenaline surged. I jumped in, locked the doors, started the engine. The sedan stayed still until I turned onto the main road, then its lights snapped on and followed. Miles of wet asphalt unrolled under streaked wipers until I veered abruptly into the parking lot of a 24-hour diner blazing neon. I parked by the window and walked inside. The sedan eased past, slow, then disappeared into the rain. A waitress poured coffee without asking. Bad night? The worst, I said. I sat there till dawn, gripping the cup's warmth, knowing that somewhere behind those thunderclouds my son's story wasn't finished, and neither was I. By sunrise the diner had emptied, leaving only the clatter of plates and the hiss of the coffee maker. I stirred sugar into the bitter brew and watched the light crawl up the neon sign until it went from red to pale pink. Something about that transformation, darkness bleaching into morning, steadied me. If Michael had the courage to face whatever truth cost him his life, I could too. I left the city before rush hour, heading north along the river highway toward Helen Norris's office. The flash drive stayed zipped inside my purse, the notebook wedged against the passenger seat like a silent passenger. Spanish moss swayed over the road, and every bend in those trees looked like a question I hadn't yet answered. Helen greeted me with a weary smile and a styrofoam cup of peppermint tea. Couldn't sleep either, she guessed. Did anyone inspect Michael's fire properly? I asked without preamble. He died in uniform, right? Supposedly accident at Station 4? She frowned. I can pull the report. Why? Because my daughter-in-law practically admitted it wasn't just faulty wiring. That got her full attention. Within minutes, she returned with a laptop and a police access form. Pages of text scrolled past until one phrase snagged my eye. Cause undetermined. possible accelerant present. Accelerant. They'd buried that word like a spark beneath sand. Helen leaned closer. If any part of the explosion was deliberate, that's arson. And if he was killed to silence him— She didn't finish. I'll forward this to Detective Tally. He's quiet but decent. By noon, we sat across from a man who matched that description. Late 40s, close-cropped hair, heavy eyes. He studied the evidence like someone assembling a puzzle they didn't want to finish. You say Mrs. Blake, formerly Jenna Hill, controlled Haven Outreach. These documents show a fund transfer 2 days before your son's death to an account under MB Holding, headquartered in Memphis. Then the building burns. Your son dies. He rubbed his jaw. Looks less like coincidence than cleanup. The word cleanup carried a smell. Smoke, wet ash, false condolences. A chill ran through me. What happens now? I asked. We verify provenance of these files. His gaze softened. And we ensure your safety. That evening, I returned home under police suggestion, but refused protective custody. The house had Michael's fingerprints on every wall. As dusk deepened, I opened Emma's old craft drawers for distraction. Buried under glitter and paper hearts lay her father's old flash drive cap, blue plastic identical to the one downstairs. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. Downstairs the phone rang once, twice, then silence. When I checked the caller ID, it showed unknown. I didn't answer. The next week blurred into errands, official visits, sleepless nights. Detective Tally said they'd found traces of accelerant near the gas line, unexplained for an electrical fire. He asked me not to discuss it publicly, especially given Jenna's remarriage to a corporate investor in Memphis with stakes in multiple philanthropic ventures. I heard only the echo of Michael's phrase, "She's transferring the funds overseas." The pattern extended beyond our family like cracks in old plaster. 2 days later, Helen called. We verified the drive's data. Your son had compiled whistleblower evidence, emails between Jenna and an executive named Paul Mercer at MB Holding. They were diverting donations from Haven Outreach to finance private developments in Belize, using refugee housing as cover. The room tilted. So he was going to expose them. Yes, she said, voice tight. He'd copied everything and scheduled an anonymous leak. But the explosion happened first. I pressed the receiver to my heart after we hung up. The weight of confirmation felt like both justice and renewed grief. My boy had been brave and murdered for it. That night, wind howled through the eaves, carrying the taste of rain. I dreamed of Michael standing in smoke, holding out his helmet to me like an offering. When I woke, thunder grumbled again, and instinct told me, forgive sleep. It was safer awake. At 2 a.m., the back door creaked. My breath froze. I eased toward the kitchen, gripping a heavy flashlight like a weapon. A silhouette ducked inside. The reflection of lightning glimmered on a rain-soaked coat. "Don't move!" a voice hissed. It wasn't Jenna. The beam caught Adam Brooks, Michael's friend, his face ghost white. "Adam, for heaven's sake!" He raised both hands. "Sorry to scare you." I had to come quiet. Someone's watching my place. Fear flashed electric through me. "What did you find?" He placed a folder on the counter. Blueprints, firehouse maintenance schedule. The rupture didn't happen where they said. It started near Michael's locker. Someone poured something flammable straight into the vent. He wiped rain from his brow. The security footage from that night's gone missing. So she erased him? His shoulders sagged. "We need to get this to that detective of yours before they silence us too." We agreed to meet Tally the next morning. Before leaving, Adam looked around the kitchen's dim light. "He talked about you all the time, you know. Said he'd never seen anyone fight life harder. Then he stepped into the rain. When I finally shut the door, I saw movement across the street, headlights flaring briefly, then darkness. The same sedan, patient as a vulture. By dawn, I packed the evidence into a grocery bag, tucked it behind the passenger seat, and drove downtown through mist. At every red light, I checked the mirror. No sedan. The city was waking, unaware that truth was stirring in its belly. Detective Tally met us at the station entrance, trench coat damp. "We got an anonymous tip last night," he said. "A car registered to Mercer's firm spotted near your neighborhood around 2 a.m. We'll look into it." He sifted through Adam's blueprints, then nodded. "This is solid. I can go to a judge for warrants." Relief trembled through me, thin but real. "Then Michael's case will reopen?" He nodded. "Officially, yes." Outside, the rain had stopped. The air smelled of ozone and iron, like promise. Adam exhaled. He'll finally rest. But as I turned toward my car, a folded note tucked under the wiper froze me. Just 3 words in perfect looping script: stop or burn. The 3 words bled ink as the rainwater soaked them, but their threat lingered sharp as smoke: stop or burn. I folded the note carefully, slid it inside the front pocket of my purse, and looked around the lot. Nothing but wet asphalt, steam rising like ghosts. Adam moved behind me, scanning rooftops. "They're watching you," he murmured. "Or both of us," I said. "Let's get inside." Detective Tally took the note with gloved fingers. "Same stationery as the earlier anonymous tip. They want you scared and quiet." His tone hardened. "You're being surveilled. My guys will set a car outside your house." Home? I almost laughed. How could that word fit anymore? When Adam drove me back, we followed 2 unmarked sedans for 3 miles, then peeled onto a dirt road behind a stand of pines. We waited, engines off, until the passing cars moved away. He kept glancing over. "You sure you can stay there tonight?" "I won't let them chase me out," I said, steadier than I felt. Michael built that porch with his own hands. At the house, the power was out. My reflection shimmered in dark windows, the outline of someone older than yesterday, but not yet defeated. Candles cast small halos across the living room, where boxes of my son's things still waited. I dug through one until I found an old cassette recorder Michael used for interviews at the station. If they were going to silence me, I would leave words. Truth they couldn't erase. I pressed record. "This is Margaret Hill. If anything happens to me, Detective Tally has the evidence proving Jenna Blake and Paul Mercer stole funds from Haven Outreach and murdered my son to cover it." Hearing my own voice steadied me. "You won't win," I told the dark. Near midnight, I startled awake on the couch. Something thudded outside. Slow, deliberate, I slipped to the window. A figure stood by the mailbox, its face hidden beneath an umbrella. Another knock, metallic this time, the sure click of a car door. I ducked behind the curtain and dialed Helen Norris's number with shaking hands. She answered groggily, then woke fast as I described the scene. "Stay put," she ordered. "We'll send a patrol." Headlights swept across the lawn. The shadow vanished before the first siren echoed down the road. Blue lights flashed against the magnolias as 2 officers searched the yard. They returned minutes later, puzzled. "Just footprints," one said, "leading toward the river." After they left, quiet flooded back like tidewater. I bolted the doors, left every light on. Dawn came like mercy. By 8 a.m., Helen and Tally arrived with news. "Warrants served this morning," the detective said. "Mercer's office seized. We've got bank statements, Cayman transfers, and emails mentioning Mrs. Blake by name." "They'll hit back," Helen warned. "You need somewhere safe until trial." "Trial?" The word felt foreign, enormous. Tally nodded. "If charges stick, it'll move fast." Media's already curious. Sure enough, within days, reporters camped across the street. Local hero's death re-examined, one headline read. I hated their spotlights, but clung to their noise. Predators prefer silence. That evening, Adam stopped by, carrying fried chicken and exhaustion. We ate on the porch steps while gnats danced in the last light. He'd be proud, he said. You did what he couldn't finish. I smiled weakly. I just want Emma safe. He nodded. Speaking of which, Jenna filed for visitation again, claiming she fears for the child's welfare under you. The audacity stole my breath. She's the danger. Tally has evidence. She's buying time, he said, delaying hearings till the press cools. Tension wound my stomach tight. Then I need to end it sooner. The next morning I attended the preliminary hearing. Jenna arrived flanked by lawyers, pale hair coiled tight, lips painted calm disdain. For a heartbeat our eyes met. Her confident smile faltered when Tally entered with sealed folders. When the judge requested statements, I rose, legs trembling, yet sure. My son Michael Hill died believing honesty still meant something in this state, I said. He trusted his wife. She stole that trust, and his life murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Jenna whispered to her attorney, who immediately objected, but the judge overruled. Then Tally presented photographs from Mercer's seized office, blueprints matching Haven's project, payment ledgers, and one email time-stamped the day before the fire. Handle the problem tonight. Jenna's composure cracked. She demanded recess, claiming forgery, but the judge denied it. I watched her fingers clutch the table edge until her knuckles blanched. When the session ended, chaos erupted outside, reporters shouting questions, flashes popping. Tally's team ushered me to his car. As we turned onto River Street, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I answered on reflex. Congratulations, Mrs. Hill, a man's voice drawled, smooth, smug. You're famous. Who is this? Someone who once believed your son's silence could be bought. Consider this a courtesy farewell. Then the line died. The tires squealed beneath Tally's grip. Mercer! He spat. They must have released him pending bail. By the time we reached my driveway, black smoke rose behind the house. Flames licked the porch railings, the same boards I'd sworn to protect. I jumped out before the car stopped moving. No! Firefighters battled it quickly, contained to the front, but the sight stole my breath, the porch Michael had built collapsing into embers. Among the ashes lay the charred remains of the mailbox, metal twisted around something larger, a small package wrapped in foil. Inside it, miraculously unburned, lay a flash drive identical to the original, and a note written in a rushed scrawl, "Backup. For when they try to silence you." It wasn't Michael's handwriting, it was Adam's. Panic surged until headlights cut through the smoke. His truck screeched to a halt. He leapt out coughing from exhaustion. You okay? Barely, I said, clutching the drive. Then, looking into his soot-streaked eyes, I added, You risked everything for this. He shrugged. He was my friend, and you're his mother. Sirens faded to tired silence. The fire chief assured the rest of the house was safe, though its bones smelled of smoke and endings. Later, as I sat on Michael's old couch wrapped in a blanket, Helen called, We've got them. Warrants expanded to Tennessee. Mercer tried to flee. Airport security stopped him. Jenna's under custody for questioning. For the first time in months, my lungs remembered how to draw a full breath. Yet amid relief, a strange sorrow bloomed. Justice could never trade for presence. Outside, dawn blushed over soot. I whispered into the quiet room, You were right, son. She learned what it was. The trial came with summer heat, the kind that sticks to your skin and memory. Georgia's courthouse seemed smaller when packed with cameras, reporters murmuring like cicadas. I took the stand steady as I could, hand raised, voice carrying every sleepless night that led here. The prosecution laid out the stolen funds, the forged contracts, the accelerant traces. They played Michael's final voicemail to Adam, his tone calm, almost resigned. If anything happens, make sure Mom knows I did the right thing. Half the jury wiped their eyes, the other half clenched their jaws. Jenna kept her gaze fixed forward, only flinching when they showed the Cayman account in her new husband's name. When the verdict finally came, guilty on all counts, the sound of the gavel felt like a heartbeat restarting in my chest. Outside, thunder still rolled, but from far away, harmless now. Reporters chased questions. I stayed silent. You can't explain relief that's half made of grief. Life afterward unfolded quietly. The house smelled faintly of smoke, but I refused to repaint. It felt honest that way. Emma visited often, taller now, 17, her laughter turning corners bright again. She'd ask, "Grandma, do you ever get tired of talking to his photo?" And I'd answer, "No, darling." He still listens better than most. One evening in August, the mailbox clanged, a new one, shiny black. Inside was an envelope from the district attorney's office, case closed, commendation of courage, paper acknowledgement for a mother's stubborn love. I set it beneath Michael's framed badge. That night the air smelled of rain again. I stepped onto the rebuilt porch, felt the rough wood under bare feet, and looked toward the horizon. Somewhere past those clouds a storm was waiting, as storms always are, but for now peace hummed along the river. Adam stopped by with peach pie, and Helen laughed on the phone when I told her the magnolias were blooming back. Something fragile yet fierce had survived, all that mattered, really. I whispered into the wind, "You see, Michael?" She thought, "It's all yours now," meant property, but it meant your truth, your fire, your little girl's safety. And yes, it's mine now, all of it. The wind rustled the oaks in answer, leaves clapping soft applause. For the first time, I let the tears come without fear. They were simply proof that the story had an ending worth keeping.